So welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing amazingly. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about my July reading wrap up, and it may be a little bit late. I believe this is going to go live mid-August, but better late than never, I think. So I'm so sorry, but for the month of July, I feel like I had a really good month. I read 7 books. 2 of them were e-arcs as well, and that's actually a really good month for me. I know some people read more, some people read less. It's definitely not a competition, but for me, that's pretty good going. So let's jump into it. Also, just as a heads up, I'm so sorry if the lighting goes a bit funny. It's actually such a glorious day today. We had such a bad start to August. It was so miserable, so rainy, but today the sun has come out to play, so the lighting may go a bit weird and whatnot, so I'm sorry in advance. So the first book I read in July was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Now, I did actually start this one in June, but I finished it on the 1st of July, so that counts towards my July reads. We started off the month with such a cracker. This was actually a 5-star prediction for me. I did rate it 4.5, so didn't quite hit the mark, but by no shape or form a bad book. Like, this was incredible. So we've got Addie LaRue, and this is set in the beginning in the 1700s, a period where it's very different to today in majority of the world, and she is being forced to marry someone she doesn't want to marry. She's not ready to get married, and she certainly does not want to marry the guy that is being proposed to her. So what does Addie do? She prays to her gods to basically to stop this nonsense, to have a different life. She really doesn't want to get married, but they are not listening. They do not answer her, but there is one entity that does answer her. This entity may be classed as the devil, but he makes a deal with Addie LaRue to live forever but be remembered by no one. So as the title suggests, she does actually take the deal, and I love this because it does actually jump through different periods of time too, but there is a timeline where it's kind of set in present day, and this is where she meets Henry, who is a bookseller, but he's a little bit different because he is the only person to have ever remembered Addie. I ate this one up. Honestly, this was so incredible. This definitely is one of my top reads of the year so far, and this is actually my first book by V.E. Schwab. Definitely is not the last, because their writing, I just can't explain it. It is so beautiful and lyrical, and it's honestly just gorgeous, and I could have read about 200 pages more. There is 500 pages roughly in this book, and a lot of criticism about this book is that it's a little bit too long. People find it that it may have dragged on a little bit. Not for me. This writing, I could have read another 200 pages. It was so gorgeous. I have to say, I was hooked from the get-go. I love multiple timelines in a book. I also love historical fiction, so the fact that it starts off with those two things, I knew for a fact that it was going to be high up on my list. But I will say, one of the timelines just didn't engage me as much as the other one, and that is honestly the only reason why it's not a 5-star read for me, because at some times there was points where I wasn't bored with one timeline, I was just aching to read more of the other timeline. So that's honestly the only reason why it's not a 5-star for me, but I highly recommend this. Like, I really do. If there is one book to pick up during this wrap up, I would say it has to be this one. Like, it is so good, and if this is on your TBR, please do bump it up, because I don't think you're going to be disappointed, and if you are, I'm so sorry. But I just love this one. I will say as well, a tiny bit of this book is repetitive, just a little bit, but obviously I feel like that's to be expected, because no one remembers Addie, you know, so she's going through the same day again and again and again. She's making those same introductions, she's saying the same goodbyes, and I just think maybe that's worth to know, especially maybe when we're in the past timeline. it can get a little bit repetitive. So again, that's a markdown on why it can't be a 5 stars. But what I will say, which I mean, this book was so unique to me. I've never read anything like this before. What I will say, and I absolutely loved about this book, is that the beginning of each chapter had a fictional art piece in it, which corresponds to that chapter somehow. I loved it. It's such a minor thing. I ate it up. Like, I just found that so clever. And it works. Like, the art pieces, it absolutely works. Oh, honestly, please do pick it up. So the next book I read in July was Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. This was a very unexpected win for me. So this is actually the first dark romance I've ever read, and it didn't disappoint. I do think, now hear me out, I do think it's because this had like a comedic element to it. Like, I laughed out loud multiple times throughout this book. That's quite rare for me. I'm someone who reads like very serious literary fiction, historical fiction. Like, I love a good cry. I love to think about my books. I hardly laugh at books. Maybe that says more about me, but I actually laughed out loud. I'm not just saying lol for the fun of it. I laughed out loud. With this one, we have got Sloane and Rowan, and they are serial killers because they actually kill other serial killers. So you could say, is there a moral compass here? But you can be the judge of that. But they have a chance encounter and they meet and decide to host an annual competition of killing a serial killer. I know, it sounds bonkers. So that is exactly what they do. They bring their brother on board. He finds a serial killer that is, you know, out in the wild, and he gives them a destination. They go to this destination, they hunt him out, and they kill him. That's the whole premise. But of course, it's a dark romance. So Sloane and Rowan are slowly falling for each other. Yeah, I did rate this one 4 stars. I thought this would just be like a 3-star for me, just a mid-read. But I really enjoyed it. I hate to say it. I really enjoyed it. What can I say? I do like true crime. I am one of those, you know, girls that love true crime. So I do watch a lot of true crime. So I don't know if that made it a little bit interesting for me. I will say it can get quite gory, but I think for me, I have an issue with eyes. I do not like eyes. Very weird. I know. There is kind of eye action in this book, which I did struggle with a little bit. But other than that, it's not too bad, like gore-wise. I mean, I feel like there could be worse, but I don't know. You gauge your own kind of threshold on what you can take and how much gore and whatnot. But it's despite what's happening in the book, it's a fun read. Our main characters, I really did enjoy. Sloane, maybe a little bit annoying. She did keep repeating the same kind of sentence sometimes, and I don't do very well with repetition, but hey ho. And also, actually, in this book, I will say there is like flashing signs that they tend to ignore. And I don't like that in a book. I just think if something is happening right in front of your face, why are you choosing to ignore that? Do you know what I mean? There is also spice in this book. I will say I feel like there is spice in this book just for the sake of having spice. I don't like that personally in a book. I know some people love it, but for me, I want some substance to the spice. Do you know what I mean? Also, some of those spice scenes shocked me more than the murder scenes. Like, seriously? I don't know if I just don't have experience with reading spice, especially in dark romance books, because I know they can get quite bad. But I was, yeah, I was a little bit, like, eyes wide open at that point. But I feel like some people would really love this though. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend. It was a fun read despite it being dark romance and about serial killers. And I am looking forward to picking up the rest of the series. I believe this is 3-part series or a 4-part series. I think the 4th book is just coming out. Is it the Ruinous Love trilogy? But it's not a trilogy anymore because I do think there's a 4th book. But apparently they're not as good as this one, but I do want to check it out. I love an interconnected series too, so 4 stars for Butcher and Blackbird. My next read was The White Octopus Hotel by Alexandra Bell, and this was actually a e-arc sent to me by NetGalley. For this one, we have got Anna, who is an art valuer, a very grumpy art valuer, may I add, and she one day gets visited by this old man for a impromptu meeting, and he actually hands her this little white octopus from a hotel that is actually closed down now. So Anna decides to do her own research on the hotel. She decides to actually visit the hotel too, and when she gets there, it's run down, you know, closed. And when she does a bit of digging, she somehow managed to get herself transported back into the 1930s to when the hotel was alive and kicking. But not only that, maybe this hotel actually has magical powers to it. So while she's transported back to the hotel, she actually has to compete in a treasure hunt of finding different octopuses around the hotel, but it's a lot trickier than what it seemed. But because it's quite tricky, there is a prize at the end that makes it all the worthwhile. So I did actually rate this one 4 stars. I did really enjoy this one. Now, the hotel itself, when we were transported back into the 1930s, it actually reminded me of like the Hollywood Tower Hotel in Disney World. I'm quite a big, massive Disney World fan, so I absolutely ate that up. Tower of Terror is also my favourite ride ever, period. So again, I absolutely ate that up. It was just without the lightning strike, you know, and the spooky vibes. But I really did enjoy it. Now, Eve is a tricky one. As a main character, she's not very likeable. I don't mind that. I quite like unlikable characters. Like, I do think she was meant to be unlikable. It's not that she was written bad or anything like that. I quite like that in my books. I don't know why, but I do quite like having an unlikable main character. But we also are introduced to another character called Max, and he becomes quite prevalent to the story. And him I found very charming. I really liked Max. And actually there was kind of like multiple point of views in this book. So one with Anna, or is her name Anna or Eve? I'm so sorry, I can't remember. And another with Max. I loved Max's storylines, and again, so I kind of felt myself wanting to read Max's storyline more than our female main character. But that doesn't mean that I didn't want to read Anna's storyline, if that makes sense. But when they were together too, I quite liked it when their paths collided. So there is definitely a bigger story to the book, and I actually did like that aspect. The only problem being is I found the ending way too tricky to understand. Like, I don't know if it wasn't explained very well, or I couldn't comprehend it. I don't know. But the ending is the reason why it let it down for me, I have to say. And I just didn't know if it was a little bit far-fetched. Well, I think it was a little bit far-fetched, and then I don't understand how it played its way into the story. So yeah, that is kind of the main reason why it's not a 5-star, but I would actually really recommend this. I love the magical elements of the hotel. For example, there could be a book where you could have dinner with a character from that book, but the only problem being is you don't know who. So you could get dinner with the hero, you could get dinner with the villain. So I love that aspect of kind of, you know, your choices do have consequences. I feel like that was quite a theme in this book, but also there are definitely heavy themes in this book. So if you did want to check this one out, I would maybe just check kind of the trigger warnings inside. But yeah, I would definitely pick up more books, I think, from Alexandra Bell. I've never heard of her before as an author, but I really enjoyed her writing, and it just made me want to read on and find out what was happening in the hotel. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by that one, and I just thank you, NetGalley, for sending that over. The next one I read was The Sister Switch by Charlotte Butterfield, and this one was actually sent to me by Mills and Boon, so thank you so much. I still feel so surreal to say. So this one is just like Freaky Friday, but rather than a mother and daughter, it's twin sisters, and there's no actual physical body swapping, they're just swapping lives. And I don't care what anyone says, Freaky Friday is a top tier film, and if you disagree, I just didn't hear you. But I absolutely love this one. Surprisingly, I thought I was going to enjoy it, but I didn't realise how much I was going to enjoy it. And I actually rated this one a 4.5 stars. We've got Addie and Alice, and they are twin sisters, and they are basically the polar opposite of each other. So we've got one who is I believe she's a therapist, but she's a lot more laid back. So her parenting style is a lot more laid back. The way she lives is a lot more laid back. And then on the other side, we've got Alice, and she is a social media influencer, and everything about her is just quite strict and regimented. She has her own style of parenting her children. She just has a lot more structure to her day, whereas perhaps Addie is a lot more relaxed. So once a week, they actually join together for a TV show, and the whole premise of this TV show is basically it's like a debate. So because they're so polar opposites, of course they have polar opposite faults. And this is actually what makes the show so popular, is because obviously they do give different advice which cater to different people. But deep down, they're at loggerheads. They don't agree with each other's advice, and actually this causes rifts between them. Because of this angst, they basically told each other that they would not last a day in their shoes. So what happens? They have to spend a week in each other's shoes. Straight away, what I loved about this book is that we are reading about older characters. I think they're in their like 30s, late 30s, and as someone who has just turned 30 herself, it's so refreshing to have older main characters. And obviously that may say more about like the books that I'm selecting to read, but it was just so refreshing, you know. It's very rare that I pick up a book with older main characters, so that was an instant plus. I'm also a sister myself. I have 2 sisters, and I resonated with this book so much right from the beginning, where there was like bickering. It was stupid bickering, but who doesn't have stupid bickering with their siblings, especially their sisters? Like, I feel like Charlotte Butterfield absolutely nailed it. And again, I was just thinking, this is so stupid, but I've done this before. I have had silly bickers like this with my sisters, and I really did not need to. I feel like it's part and parcel of being a sister, right? I actually really loved our main characters too. I mean, I feel like it was written in a way where you are rooting for one more than the other, but at the same time, by the end of it, you are rooting for both. But also the side characters, Seb, who is one of the sisters' husbands, he is an absolute diamond. The stuff that Seb went through in this book, I feel so bad for him. That is what a book boyfriend is. Like, he is so lovely, and I really felt for him. But yet, I feel like the side characters also made this book, and also like made you really think about how you live your life, and maybe how your life is not the perfect life for somebody else, and just not to be judgmental. But unfortunately, there is obviously some unsavoury people in this book, and I was thinking there is no way someone would act like that, but I think people do. I actually think there are some very unsavoury, horrible people out in the world that may act like some characters or one character in this book, and it just made me like open my eyes up a little bit and just, you know, appreciate that everyone's home lives are completely different, and how you live your life may be completely different, even if it's your sister, someone you are so close to. So overall, I would absolutely recommend this book. This took me by a pleasant surprise. It's very predictable. I think you know what the storyline's going to be, but at the same time, it doesn't take away with how quite entertaining this book was, how it also makes you think. Honestly, I really think this is one to read. So the next book I did actually read was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This was actually a 5-star prediction for me. I did rate it 4 stars. It didn't quite hit that 5-star mark for me, but that is in no way any shade to this book. I found it thoroughly entertaining. For this one, we have got sisters Donatella and Scarlett, who is our female main character, and they have been wanting to attend the Caraval Games for years. But the only problem being is that they actually flit on different islands every year, so they haven't been able to attend. But Scarlett has actually been writing to the Caraval master called Legend every year to plead for him to bring the games to their home island. Of course, that hasn't quite panned out for Scarlett, but surprisingly, for this year's games, they've managed to secure tickets for both Donatella and Scarlett. Both sisters are super excited to jump into the Caraval Games, but actually, more importantly, they want that winner's prize, which is a single wish of anything that they would like. But don't be fooled, because Caraval games, they are mysterious, they are dark, and also they might not be true. You might be seeing something that is a hallucination. You might be seeing something that is actually real. You have to decide. Is someone a shady character? Is someone actually turning out to be your friend? So many twists and turns that you have to figure out. I really enjoyed this one. I will say straight away is that this is YA. I loved the world building in here. Like when we first got onto the Caraval games and how it was described, I really wanted to be there. I wanted to experience the Caraval games for myself. Then I found out, maybe not so much because I quite value my life, but I loved the world building in here. What I will say is, I think as well from the cover, you kind of expect a carnival theme. I didn't really get that from this book. Like there are carnival elements and like circus elements, but I wouldn't say it's an actual circus theme. Like I kind of wanted jugglers. I know this sounds really silly, but I kind of wanted to see jugglers and, you know, performers here and there. I wasn't really that vibe, but at the same time, I still enjoyed it. Like the world building was still there. That dark mystery element I absolutely loved. Also, like figuring out, is something real? Is that hallucination? I really like that. I think it really added like depth to the book and just made you think a little bit more. But I think what I will say is, maybe because it's YA, I couldn't connect with Scarlett, our female main character. I just thought she was a little bit bland for the setting of the book. I don't know. I just feel like for someone that is experiencing the Caraval games and have wanted to experience these games for so long, I kind of just wanted a little bit of oomph. And yes, I know something happens in this book which is quite stressful for Scarlett, and you know, she will definitely be thinking about this stressful situation that she's in, but I'm just like, I don't know, it's a book. I kind of wanted a bit more personality and character maybe from Scarlett. Whereas again, the side characters, I really enjoyed some of the side characters, and actually, obviously I've got books 2 and 3 raring to go. I really hope we see more side character action, because some of them I just found were really interesting and I would love to know their backstory. So I think for me, the reason why it can't be a 5-star is obviously I briefly mentioned Scarlett and her as the female main character, but also the writing. So obviously it is YA. I don't expect anything spectacular, and actually it wasn't too young for me, but Stephanie Garber sprinkled in some beautiful writing in this book. Like there would be an odd sentence that was just so lyrically written, and then the rest of it would go back to YA, which I get because it is a YA book. I just feel like she had so much more to give, and I really want to see more of kind of Stephanie Garber's beautiful writing. And I don't know, I feel like she could have done this with this book and like with this setting. I wanted a bit more. Maybe I'm just greedy, I don't know. But again, I think if Stephanie Garber writes a book that is aimed towards adults rather than young adult, I feel like she could shine. I really feel like she could shine, and I just feel like her writing would be beautifully written and so poetic and lyrical, and that is the writing that I absolutely love. I love flowery writing. I'm not a fan of like straight to the point writing. Extra words, they're my friends. I love it. So again, I think that's another reason why it can't be 5 stars. I am excited to jump into the next ones in the series, but I'm not rushing it. I actually don't have a clue what they're about. We have an epilogue at the back of the book, and actually I do feel like it sets up the next book nicely, and as much as it doesn't make me want to run to read the next book, I will say I am excited for when I get round to it. So yeah, 4 stars. I quite enjoyed this one. So the next book I read was The Serpent's Bride by Kathryn and Kingsley. And again, this was an ER kindly sent to me by Second Sky and NetGalley. Oh, and this one is actually expected to be released on the 28th of August. So this one is actually classed as a vampire dark romance. And while there is elements of dark romance in there, like there is clearly dark. Should I say there are dark themes? Whether it's a dark romance, I don't know. I mean, I've not read many to be able to say this is a dark romance, but I'm not sure what romance was happening here. if that makes sense. But the plot. So we have got, I can't remember her name. Her name is Naddie. Right, so we've got Naddie, and she's actually Fae. And when she was younger, something very, very tragic happens to her. So now she's grown up, and she is kind of like an assassin. She's a paid assassin. And she has decided to get revenge on the person that caused this tragic accident. Well, I say it was an accident. I don't think it was an accident, but this tragedy, she wants revenge on that person who caused this tragedy. Her plan is to actually have an arranged marriage with the person that caused this tragedy. I feel like on paper, this book has a lot of tropes that a lot of people like, especially in their dark romances. But personally for me, it just didn't work. I think the main factor for me is, and again, this is why I feel like maybe dark romances are not going to be for me, but how can you be attracted to someone that caused so much tragedy to your life? I don't get it. I don't get it. The main love interest is actually a vampire, and there's a whole kind of story about the vampire's family and how they're kind of, kingpins in this world. And what I will say is the world building, I found it a bit lackluster. I wanted a bit more world building. The actual setting, it was gothic, it was eerie, and I liked that, but there wasn't much world building, and I don't know, I quite like world building. I like to imagine where this is being set. That's the whole point for me in reading a book, is to literally be transported into another world. Especially if I'm reading something that has like a fantasy element. I want a good detailed world. So the plot itself, what to say? I did enjoy it, mildly enjoy it. There was a lot of action, and by that I do actually mean like fight scenes, battle scenes. I did quite enjoy that. Our female main character, I don't feel like she was very likeable. I mean, she was likeable, but she annoyed me. She grated on me so much. I've never heard so much repetition going on in a book. The amount of times she was telling us how she wanted to take her revenge on her love interest. So just take it. She had ample opportunities to take, her revenge, and she didn't, because she was waiting for a better time. I'm sorry, if someone has caused a tragedy to you when you were younger that has altered your entire life, I'm not sure I would bide my time. I would want to exact revenge, of course, in a book setting. So it just annoyed me, and she kept telling us, I'm gonna get my revenge. I'm gonna get my revenge. You're not, though. You're not. It was just a little bit repetitive for me. I'm sorry, can you tell that that's a little bit of a sore spot for me? The romance. Now, I've said before, like, I don't understand how you can find the person that's caused so much tragedy in your life attractive, but the romance came out of thin air. I just don't know what they were attracted to in their personality. Maybe physically, I get that, and a lot of dark romance books may be like that, or like just romance books in general, I get that. But for me, I do like a bit more substance to my romances, and maybe I should have known this wasn't going to be up my street, but I read it anyway. So I just felt like the romance, it was just a bit surface level, It just weren't for me. I'm sorry, it just weren't for me. I actually can't remember if there's any spice in this book. I feel like when the romance did happen, it was quite later on in the book, which is fine. I love a slow burn. I don't know, I just feel like the romance was just a little bit strange for me. I just couldn't get my head around it. But I feel like when it did happen, it was near the end of the book, and my God, the ending. Please don't get me started on that ending. So I think this is going to be a series, but the ending was supposed to be the whole plot point of the first book, if that makes sense. Like, the cliffhanger is now obviously the plot point of the second book, but that should have been the plot point of the book I've just read. Does that make sense? So I wasn't impressed by that. I don't know, maybe I am just too hard to please. But at the same time, so I did rate this a 3.5. I did have a good time as such. Like, I love the vibes. I love, like, vampires too. I read Dracula, absolutely love Dracula. But I do like that vampire theme and reading about vampires and like the eerie setting that comes with it. It was an easy read. Like, for someone that had so many problems with it, I kind of flew through it. So maybe it wasn't as bad as what I'm thinking. And also, like, I did quite like the battle scenes. There was a few twists. So yeah, 3.5. I feel like that's justifiable. Will I be reading the next book? Maybe if it comes on like 99p on Kindle. I mean, I'm talking about the next book. The first book's not even come out. The first book's out in, I think it's due to be released August 28th. But yeah, overall, The Serpent's Bride by Kathryn and Kingsley, I gave it a 3.5. And this was actually my kind of worst rating of the month. So I'm actually going to take that as a win. Finally, the last book I read in July was The Midnight Library by Haig. So this one is about Nora, and basically she's very unhappy in life and she decides to take her life. But before that actually happens, she is kind of transported to the Midnight Library, and this is where there are infinite options of how Nora's life would have turned out if she maybe chosen different choices throughout her life. So essentially this is kind of like the butterfly effect, and how a different choice that Nora made when she was younger could change the course of her later life. But by being present in the Midnight Library and seeing the different routes that she could have taken down, maybe she might appreciate her life a little bit more, and she may actually decide that she doesn't want to end her own life. So this one, I had really high hopes. It was a 5-star prediction. I did actually rate it 4 stars. Again, that's not a bad reflection on the book. I really enjoyed this book. This one made me think. Honestly, I love a book that makes you think. I feel like there's more substance to a book. And if a book can make me think about my own life, appreciate my own life, I have to give it something for that, you know? And my God, this book really did. It made me thankful for what I have. We're so quick to think, you know, like, oh, I wish I had that, or I had that lifestyle. And actually look around at what you can be thankful for. And this book, it definitely done that for me. So I did quite like the plot as a whole, but the reason why it can't be a 5-star for me is there were a few things that was just niggling at me. And I liked Nora as a character, I really did. But I just felt like she had too many opportunities happening. Like, it was set up like she could be anything she wanted in the world, which I get it. Like, that's a very good lesson for some people, you know, you can be whatever you want to be. But I feel like it just was said so there's content for the book, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. I guess that's the whole point of a book, is so you can, you know, have a setup and you can explore different avenues. And obviously by going to the Midnight Library, you are finding out different career paths, different routes, how your life could have ended up. So I do get it, but at the same time, it just didn't feel very real, and that kind of took me out a little bit. Also, the dialogue for some of the chapters in the book, like, so when she's exploring her different avenues in life, I just felt like the dialogue was not very apt. Like, obviously she would be asking questions because she doesn't know what's going on in that world, because she's just kind of being plonked there and everyone else around her knows what's happening, but she doesn't. So she's asking certain questions, and I just feel like the responses are not the responses that you would get if you were actually being plonked into that world. Maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into it, but it just took me out. It just took me out of it a little bit. I wasn't overly keen on the dialogue. Obviously, there are some heavy themes in this book, like suicide and whatnot, so maybe going a bit cautious if, you know, that triggers you. But I really did enjoy it. I really like Haig's writing. I found it really beautiful. If I was an annotating person, I feel like I would have loads of tabs throughout this book. And I would love to pick up some more of his work, actually, because I was pleasantly surprised. And I'm so glad that I've actually read this. So this has been on my radar for so long. Obviously, this has a lot of buzz around it, and now I can finally say I've read it and I enjoyed it. I'm so glad I'm in that camp, because I know this has very mixed reviews, but personally, I would definitely recommend. And that is my reading wrap up for July. I feel like I've had such a good month. We have read 7 books. That's actually quite rare for me. I'm normally between the 4 and 6 mark. So to read 7, I'm actually very happy with myself. And 2 of them were arcs. I think if I could only give you one recommendation from the books I've read this month, my favourite, it has to be The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. That book is so special. It was written so beautifully. I really enjoyed that book. I cannot wait to delve into more V. Schwab's work, because if they're anything like that one, I just know they're going to be incredible. And actually, I've heard really good things about, is it the Vicious series? That box set? I believe it could be YA. And obviously they've just released Bones in the Midnight Soil. That looks incredible too. Like, I need to pick that up, but I kind of want paperback, I think. It's only been released in hardback. Why do they do that as well? I really just wish sometimes they would just come out with paperback first, you know? I don't mind a hardback, as you can see, but I do like a paperback. I just find them easier to hold. But then I don't really bend my spines, so then actually I do like a hardback, because then I can just go, sorry, I'm digressing, aren't I? You don't really care. But yes, no, I would recommend The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. If that is on your TBR, pump it up. I feel like you won't regret it. I implore you, please read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. But on that note, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you clicking on this video. I appreciate you getting this far. And if you did enjoy this, please do like and subscribe. It would mean so much to me. And also, I would love it if you would leave a comment. I'm quite nosy, so I would love to know what you read in July. What was your favourite read of July? Have you read any of the books that I read? I would love to know the tea. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or evening. I hope you're reading some incredible books, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.